Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our webinar and thanks for tuning in on this sunny afternoon. Digitalization, we're all on the road to digital transformation. Some have barely begun, some are digital pioneers, most of us are just somewhere on the way. But where does this way actually lead to? Could ecosystems be one option? I'm very happy to have Professor Reinhard Jung with me today. My name is Reinhard. Reinhard is Professor of Business Engineering at our university, and he will look at this question with us. So now I would like to welcome Reinhard. Thank you for taking this time on this afternoon. So I won't keep you further from it. Wish you lots of fun and you an insightful afternoon.
Thank you, Friederike. And warm welcome also from my side. I'm quite happy to be with you in this webinar. I had a quick glimpse on the participant list, and I'm really happy to have seen quite a lot of familiar names on it. So guys, a warm welcome to you especially. Now the subject, digitization and ecosystems. Although the subject is still young in academic terms, there is also already a lot of confusion around those terms. To give you just one, a lot of companies, and I won't name any of those, have thought in the beginning that it would be suitable to just kick in some technology and name a chief digital officer and have the job done. And as we already know, this is not the case. So I thought it would be useful to bring a little bit light on what is this really and what should be done. This will not be the final conclusion or the silver bullet to digitization I'm going to present, but maybe I can offer a little value in this jungle of terms and maybe misunderstandings we already have. I'm going to switch on the presentation now. Here it is. So it's from digitization to ecosystems. What I'm going to do with you today is just discuss a little bit what is digitization, what is digital transformation. Those two alone are mistaken sometimes. And then the question, what is going on our markets, in our industries? So what does the customer want and what is the influence on what we are selling and offering? The third part will be on ecosystems, and this might come as a surprise, but to my mind, ecosystems are a linear consequence of what we are looking at today when we look into industries and markets. And I want to conclude the session with some key takeaways from my side, and then, as Friederike already said, we are going to have a really good time for your questions. So I'm really looking forward to those. And now I dive directly into the subject. And this is, no worries, this is the only definition that I will be giving you, and I like to read it for you. Digital transformation is the consistent redesign of an organization, tapping the full potential of IT regarding business model innovation, superior customer experience, and operational excellence. So this is still a little dry, and we typically build models, graphical models on those definitions to make it a little more tangible. So if you look at this picture, imagine your company in the center of this picture. So it's an organization that's comprised of a business strategy, business processes, and a technological infrastructure on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, there is always something that we call culture that is not really taken care of on the left-hand side. So this is the organization we want to transform. Okay, so what is now happening all around our companies? Let's start at the right-hand side. First one is, and this is really business critical, we have to provide the customers with a superior customer experience. I keep saying, if we don't deliver that, we don't need a business model, because without customers, we don't need something like a revenue model, okay? So we have to get to the customers. We need to lock them in, to surprise them so that they stay with us. if I succeed in that dimension, I need a business model. And in some cases, we need something that is different from what we used to have formerly. So for example, we need to adjust our revenue model. Maybe we also need to adjust our cost structures in order to earn part of the value which we are providing to the customer. So we call that value capture. So it's a way to get a little bit of the value that we are providing back in money. So those two dimensions, customer experience and business model innovation, are very important. But typically, the hard work begins once we have defined those two, because then we have to transform our organization in order to deliver that. And that means a lot. For example, integrate processes, integrate IT systems. It also means to integrate our systems with those of our suppliers. I give you just very tiny little example. If we promise our customer that the service or product we are delivering is available 24/7, it's almost a no-brainer that the whole value chain should be 24/7 and that we need a real-time connection with our suppliers. If that is not the case, our promise will not happen. So those are the central dimensions which we have to cover. Moreover, we have typically employees in our companies, and those employees also have to adapt to this digital world. So we have to change the mindset in order to put the customer really into the center of our activities and go through that cycle which I just explained to you. Now, I promised to say something on the differentiation between digitization and digital transformation. And this is the way I prefer to explain that. First of all, and this is the first step we need to take, is we need in our organizations to automate the data gathering, and we need to be able to process data in real time. And this is easily said, and it's a lot of work to really implement it. If we have done that, we can go a step further, and then we can optimize processes within our companies. If we have achieved optimized processes, then we could generate new value propositions to our customers. So, and now you might ask, what is now digitization? Digitization is the bottom end of this pyramid, and digital transformation is the top end. So we cannot go to a digital transformation if we have not made our homework. Our homework is the basis of this pyramid. So to give you a little more details, the bottom of the pyramid means investing money. There is typically no real business case to do that, no immediate business case. So we will be burning money to just get our data world into order. If we have done that, we can optimize processes, and this might, for the first time, generate revenues in form of saved cost. So we have efficiency then. We do the things right. And if we have that, we can go even a step further. We can achieve effectiveness. We can do the right things. And then we are much closer to our customer. He's not interested in our data gathering and processing activities. He's interested in the value proposition. So now you can ask, what has that all to do with technology? A little bit is seen on the bottom of this pyramid, but actually technology works on all those three levels. I mean, we need technology to integrate data and processes real time. We need technology to optimize processes, because processes in a typical company are connected to application systems. Partly they are years old, even centuries old. And even to generate new value propositions, we need, for example, consumer electronics. So mobile devices, location-based services all depend on modern technology which is readily available on the consumer side. So I'm coming to the first question to you, and I'd like you to answer that on your screen. So if you look at your own company, where did your company start the journey? First option would be we began to automate data, gathering and processing data in real time. Second one would be, we began with optimizing processes. Third one, we began with generating new value propositions. Or fourth, we haven't started yet. And I'm quite curious with what answers you might come up. Interestingly enough, if I comment why you're clicking, if we look at startups would definitely always start with number 3, because they are really dependent on getting customers first, because they need to break even very soon, because they run with money. So that would be their preference. Now, I think I have the result, and the one with the majority, I have to get closer, I'm already old, my eyes are not that good. So we have evenly 32% with we began with optimizing processes, and we began with generating new value propositions. Followed by 23%, we began with automated data gathering and processing data in real time, and the last one, we haven't started yet. Actually, that is good news, because the answer we haven't started yet is the not so good one. Okay? Okay. I'd like to go on with the presentation. Now we can have a look from a different angle. We can have a look at industries, and we can have a look at the question, what do our customers really want? So in the old days, so to speak, companies were offering products, right? We know that time that was typical, and typically the products were differentiating, enabling us to have a margin on the selling price. In the past years, we moved to products combined with services. I'd like to give you an example. First one from the B2B side, Schindler is selling elevators and escalators, or used to sell elevators and escalators. Later on, they moved to a model where they provided, along with their equipment, also maintenance to those equipment. So they are able to monitor the technical parameters of escalators and elevators while they are in use at their customers, and provide preventive maintenance. So the bundle is now, you buy a product and you get the service alongside. I guess you know such bundles also from the consumer side. Give you one example from that area. Some years ago, you bought digital cameras, and you got alongside with it maybe cloud storage and the possibility to print your digital photos on paper. So that was a little bit of a transformation step for the photo industry. So that is product and service. But we already moved on. Next one will be what the customer gets is not a product or a service, but it's the result of product and service deployment. This is a little more complicated. I'd like to give you an example, again, from the B2B world. There is a manufacturer of dynamite. So if I ask you who wants to have dynamite, typically nobody wants to have dynamite. Even mining companies have their issues with having dynamite because you need to ensure security. There can go a lot wrong. So the idea that Orica had was to not provide dynamite anymore, but to provide to the mining company a specific amount of broken rock. So that would mean that Orica provides dynamite personnel coming to the mine and looking that enough rock is dispersed, so to speak, right? So the invoice would then say, we provided 5 tons of broken rock. That would be the new revenue model of Orica. So you don't get a product, you in a way get a service, but basically it's the result of deploying product and service to your environment. And think about what Orica had to do to achieve that. It's a lot. So I'm going to speak about that in a moment again. So what would be the next step? The next step could be that we, and this is a generic term, I don't give you an example for that, that the focus of our activities is to provide any value to the customer. It could be a product, it could be a service, it could be anything. Important is that the customer perceives something as a value for him. That's going to be the stuff which we are selling tomorrow. Not in all industries, we need physical products still, but that is going to decide the game. So it looks nice, but there is also challenges with it. The nice one is the horizontal axis. So the login of the customer is increasing. So if you have the customer where Orica has its customers, you don't want to switch anymore, because it's really nice to have all the complexity with a provider and just receive the broken rock and look for anything for dynamite, for gems or gold or whatever. The problem with complexity is it's not gone. It's changed the side. So typically in such models, the complexity is now with the supplier. As I said, Orica will have to provide personnel, skilled personnel. Also, the balance sheet is influenced if you do things like that because you don't sell the product anymore, so you still own it. In case of dynamite, it's gone, okay, but you can also apply this model with machinery, and then it's still on your balance sheet, and you need a lot more capital to do those models. So now you can ask, what has got that to do with digital transformation? Easy. The path is directly leading this way. We are going from product to product and service to the result of product and service deployment and then to value. And that is something the market is doing in interaction between what innovative companies can do and what in reaction to that customers really want to have. So it's a little bit a self-accelerating mechanism. So we are basically going up that stairs. Why might that lead to ecosystems? And I found a very interesting example in Harvard Business Review, and it's one of the industries that is far ahead when it comes to ecosystems. It's digital farming. So here is the stages digital farming went through. First of all, I don't know, most of you in their childhood were fascinated by tractors, okay? At least it holds true for me. So that was the product. This industry went through the evolution when they said, okay, we are going to make this product smart, okay? The product was able to self-analyze its operating parameters like oil pressure and the like. You can compare it to your car today. Maybe your car is even one step further. It's maybe a smart connected product. So you can add electronic devices that can be connected to the product so that you have this analytics along with the product. Okay, so now is the farmer, who is the customer in this case, really well supported? Not yet. Therefore, we need the fourth step when you suddenly have a product system. Because for the farmer, the tractor itself is not of value. If you integrate now the tractor with tillers and planters and even combined harvesters, he can organize his activities in that product system. So for him, it is important, for example, to not have all the seeds on one big heap on his land, okay? So if this product system is designed like that, you can make sure this works. And this is already able to position the tractor exactly where it needs to be on its land. So if we go one step further, we might see that it's very important for a farmer to have information on weather. It's important for him to have information on seed quality. It's important for him to have information about ground quality in order to optimize what he is bringing out on his land and in order to optimize when he's doing harvesting. So, and if you look at that part of the picture, right-hand side, you see that there is a lot of suppliers, actors present that were not there in the beginning when we just talked about a product. So it's a system of systems that provides great value to the farmer, but on the same time, you see that the tractor itself is not in the middle of attention anymore because he is maybe interchangeable. You can buy a tractor from another company. So for those farming equipment companies, it was very important to steer that process and to be the one to coordinate this ecosystem. The thing is that most companies will not be able to be the orchestrator of such an ecosystem or even the operator of the platform, although it seems desirable in terms of money and margin. So for most companies, it will be the challenge to link itself up in one or ideally more of those ecosystems. So we are coming to the next question to you. Has your company already considered to position itself in ecosystems? First option, no, we have not yet considered it. Second one, yes, we have already considered it. Third one would be, yes, we are already building up our ecosystem capabilities, so we are actually doing something. And fourth one, yes, we are already engaged in ecosystems. And I'm quite curious what the results in this case might be. It looks evenly, a little bit evenly distributed right now. Still waiting for the final result. Here it is. So we have the majority, 33% say yes, we have already considered it. And then second place is yes, we are already building up our ecosystem capabilities. That's a very good value. So I'm positively surprised. And then no, we have not considered it yet. This answer could be, depending on your industry characteristics, just the right one, because if you have a really superior product, you don't need an ecosystem. Well, there are still cases that work like that. And the last one, that would be the ultimate goal. Yes, we are already engaged in the ecosystem. Great, thank you. Okay, so. And by the way, what I put in this slide, bottom right corner, is we have in our research investigated what roles there are in ecosystems and have developed something that you can compare to the business model canvas. We have devised an ecosystem canvas where the different roles can be described in order to shape an ecosystem and find out which actor is considered for which role. Okay, some key takeaways as we are coming closer to our timely deadline before we can go to your questions. On the one hand side, I would say digital transformation is creating new demands on the customer side. So we are pushing them and they want more. And on the supplier side, we are reacting and we create new value propositions. So this is a two-sided game that's pushing itself. When we look at industries, a lot of value propositions are beyond products, so they are more than products, and sometimes even beyond services. So this Orica example might be taken as one. One important consequence is that the margins, the product margins, are dwindling in many, many industries. And this is something you cannot just look at and wait. You have to do something about that. Fourth point is ecosystems open up industries, which means competitors might enter that are from totally different angles and industries, because providing weather data is at the start of this journey, it wasn't quite clear what this supplier has to do with digital farming. Today, it seems to be a no-brainer, but back then, it was like that. And imagine one of the big tech companies liking your ecosystem or your company. That could happen a lot in very short time. If you look at the acquisitions those big companies are making, it's mostly around building up ecosystems. by those acquisitions. Last point on that slide, for companies, it will be key to find a role in ecosystems, and I added various. So it could be a success factor to not only be able to link yourself into one ecosystem, but in several. So it's like having several distribution channels, okay, to provide your service or product in different ecosystems, to have diversification. So we can now look at it and say, oh, this is sad. We are going from products to something else, and industries are changing. This is why I put something of Schumpeter in here. Creative destruction has always been there. It's a characteristic of our economic system. Insofar, what we are witnessing right now is only the consequence of what we are doing for decades and even centuries. Now, what need companies to do? And this is just my personal suggestion to you. I would say on the business side, we need to emphasize that digital transformation is not just a tech exercise. So don't stop with just kicking technology into your company. That would not be sufficient. On the IT side, we need to emphasize that automation is just a prerequisite to digital transformation. Yes, we have to do it, but if we have done that, we are only one step further. To my mind, it is key to join forces internally, so business and IT have to work together, and we really have to integrate the customer perspective, because we will be dependent on developing products, services, or to create value for those customers. And if we don't ask them, we will not know what to build on. In a perfect world, a company has got employees able to design and execute the necessary transformation process. We, or at least myself, call those experts business engineers, because they should be able to transform a business. And then it might become a success. So I hope I could bring a little bit value to you as my customers today. And now I'm looking forward to your questions. And in order to have them, I stop the presentation and go back to live video.
Thank you very much, Reinhard. As you know, you can send more questions. Some have come in already. You can upvote those questions you find most interesting. So please go ahead. I'll just start with the first one. Can you elaborate on Coopetition? How do we get competitors to collaborate in an ecosystem, and what resources exist on the topics?
Okay, so the second one would be something that I would like to do offline after this webinar. The first one is Coopetition. Okay, I mean, I could say the bad thing about ecosystems is that most actors in there will be replaceable, because we need standards, we need like contracts, but not written, not in the law sense, that enable us to cooperate, and that means that one actor is easily exchanged for another. So Coopetition will happen in ecosystems, and I would say we have to get used to it.
Thank you. Do you have any ideas on how to measure the overall value of an ecosystem, since the whole is greater than the sum of its part? Is there research about that?
I don't know if there's research about that, but I would doubt if it's really of value right now, because that would be an exercise to measure something that is really, really hard to measure. I would say it's a little bit like a decision that comes from the stomach, so to speak, to say we need to engage in ecosystems. So to argue for or against engaging in ecosystems is something that comes from the gut, I would say. So either you believe it, that the industry or a market is going that way, or you don't. But if we look at examples, which might be the transportation industry or the hospitality industry, you can see clear indications that it's going that way. It might not be in each and every industry, but in there it's like that. And measuring the value of that is really difficult. You cannot just take the economic advantage that the orchestrator or the platform operator gets out of that, because that is typically a very high profit. But you would also have to look at transaction costs in ecosystems, which are an issue, and the benefit the other actors get out of that.
Mm-hmm. Providing value starts at the beginning when a company provides a product. To get a locked-in customer, the company has to be top of mind value creator. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, typically you have to have a product in most cases. So as you have seen in the digital farming example, the tractor is not that much at the center anymore. But without a tractor, it's worth nothing anyway. So yes. That was my comment earlier on. You still need physical products. We are not detaching ourselves in this world from the physical realm. So I have no fear that everything is going digital in the near future.
Would you consider it to be the key ecosystem capabilities companies should build up before joining or even establishing a successful ecosystem? What are the capabilities the companies need?
I would say to engage in ecosystems means just do it. Start, learn, improve, and optimize. Ecosystems are nothing that will be engineered from the start 100%. They are developing over time. I'm pretty sure John Deere, and this is the example in digital farming, knew what would come out of their journey in the end. So it's really something the Americans would say, just do it. Learn. There will be mistakes in the journey to an ecosystem with each and every actor, and you will be successful. If you just wait, that's a little dangerous strategy. And if you try to over-engineer in the beginning, that might not be successful also.
Thank you. Are you aware of any ecosystems working in financial services? Someone else mentioned Alibaba as an example, but others maybe in this region?
This is thin ice for me, but if you look at national industries, most platform operators are going that way or try to go that way. It's either large banks that try that, or, for example, in Switzerland, the Six Group is doing the same. So they are always looking into where do they develop their platforms into. And I mean, an ecosystem and the ensuing platform is a logical consequence.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Could you give us some examples of typical pitfalls in creating ecosystems or ecosystem of Phoenix you find on the way, and specifically in a regulated environment, as those environments might be limiting the chances of the ecosystem?
Mm-hmm. I mean, in maybe the second part of the question mm-hmm. first. Regulation is a huge inhibitor, a roadblock to ecosystems, because you have things like security, data protection laws and the like, and that makes it really tough to exchange the information you need to exchange in an ecosystem. Okay. What was the first part of the question?
Let me pull it up again. The first part. Could you give us some examples of typical pitfalls in creating an ecosystem?
Yeah, that would be the idea that when creating an ecosystem, for example, like an orchestrator, just focusing on my own business model. That would be a pitfall, because a living ecosystem requires that there are several business models being suitable for various actors. So a very selfish central instance would be a real problem to an ecosystem. So you always have to think about, how do I keep my providers, my suppliers happy in the same ecosystem. So the definition of a business model is a real issue in that regard.
Thanks. In the farming example, wouldn't the next step just be offering farming That means applying the tractor and the ecosystem on behalf of the farmer.
Sure.
He just rents the
Sure.
land.
Sure. Actually, that is happening for quite a while, at least in the US. So typically the farmer does not do the harvesting himself, but he buys a service that provides that. And those service providers might use such a system of systems to provide the service. Mm-hmm. That's actually a good question.
And who should actually be in charge of building up the ecosystem? Which companies are very well positioned to do that?
Okay, I mean, the one who has already got a scaled platform is, in most cases, the typical or natural orchestrator. We call them the orchestrator. That's the central node of those ecosystems. So the provider of the platform is typically also the natural orchestrator of an ecosystem. So far, there are no examples that immediately pop to my mind that deviate from that.
Mm-hmm. Where is that? Do you see any connections, or what connections or overlaps do you see between digital transformation and agile transformation? Is there a difference? What's the difference?
Okay, I knew I would get an agile question.
We had agile in the earlier webinar this morning.
Actually, yeah, I know. You could talk on agile. Let me just pick one. I think you need to have agile mechanisms in order to sustain this development, because you, as I said, you cannot 100% engineer what will come out in 5 years. So you have to try, you have to learn, you have to improve, and you have to develop your offerings. And that is very close to the ideas of agile. So there's, I would say, a lot of mindset in agile is helping digital transformation. Let's put it like that.
So here's a bit of a longer comment / question. I'm coming from the tech side, so it was very interesting to have a look on digitalization from a business view. Looking at the technology side, especially in Germany, Industry 4.0, it is striking that the new working group of the platform Industry 4.0 for new business models was just started last year. Germans have a deficit here as Japanese, where I live. So welcome to the viewer from Japan. Champions are the Americans in thinking of business models. Maybe here the look from the business side should help. What should the Germans, Japanese, perhaps Swiss do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you that we are lacking behind in that area. It starts with mobile networks. We just had this 5G auction in Germany recently. And all those technological prerequisites are a little bit slow. But I mean, if I look at Western Europe, those nations have a long history in engineering and typically are good in that area. So in seeing what the customers or the markets need and engineering the suitable platform. So I'm still hopeful that Western Europe will catch up, but it's definitely a little bit of wake-up call, because there's areas in the world that are far ahead of us.
How do you actually value the service? How do you set the value of the service or product in an ecosystem? How do you do the pricing?
I would say that's basically the same as in the old world. I mean, we do have market mechanisms, and also those ecosystems have to compete with their value proposition in those markets. And it's very likely that for a specific area, there might be competing ecosystems, and that mechanism should be able to find the correct price. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we can have one more question here. It's a short one. In large corporates, who's typically initiating the steps? Would that come top down or?
Typically, I mean, the good examples, and I'm not quoting them now, in typical examples due to decision power, the push came out of the executive board. Those are really likely to be successful. There might be one or the other exception where it's bottom-up driven, but typically you need on the executive board a good understanding what digital transformation is, a real commitment to start the journey, because coming back to Agile, in the end means let go. So you have to start a journey where you cannot today say where the path will lead, and you cannot ask your team, please have a business case with a return on investment ready in 2 weeks. That's not going to work in digital transformation and in ecosystem. So there needs to be a little bit change in how we decide and how we empower the organization to move on.
Thank you. Someone asked where he can get more information on the ecosystem canvas. I guess we can put that in the follow-up.
Yep. So basically, this is the result of a PhD thesis that is, as we speak, in completion. So that should be really very soon on the publishing market, and it's in English, so it should be readable to the participants of this webinar.
Well, thank you very much, Reinhard. Thank you to all your questions and for joining us on this beautiful afternoon instead of having a barbecue. So yes, for all of you, we will of course send the link to the recording. We will also put additional materials, reading suggestions in there, so make sure to open the follow-up email, but have a bit of patience, and it won't be before next week. Do you have any final remarks?
No, I hope to see one or the other of you in person in due course. And it was, although the internet was between us, quite fun to talk to you.
And please do join us in one of our 3 upcoming webinars this week. So bye-bye. Thanks for listening and viewing.